to What's Cooking New Ulm. I'm Rebecca Fliszar, the dietitian with the Hearts Beat Back Heart of New Ulm project, working to reduce and eventually eliminate heart attacks in the 56073 zip code. All right, so tonight, if we're going to do double duty, we can do 2 recipes at one time. We have a great maple chipotle pork tenderloin, so pork medallions we're going to be making, which sounds like a mouthful, but this is going to be one of the easiest recipes we put together on this show. The second one that we're going to be using is a red pepper sweet potato pasta. So these two are going to complement each other well. You're actually going to get your sweetness from your meat, and you're going to get your substance from your potatoes and your pasta. So a little bit of a change up tonight, but we're going to see how this goes for us. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with our pork. And we're going to just go ahead. This is a standard pork tenderloin, you can see. We're going to trim up the fat on the back just a bit. And normally, a tenderloin, a loin, or a round cut in any meat is usually your leanest cut. So that's what you're looking for in these. And you can see that there's very little fat coming off here, which is great to see. So always remember that, whether it's pork or beef, your round steaks, your pork tenderloins, any of your loin cuts, your sirloins, are going to be a little bit better for you, a little bit leaner, and something we want to keep in our diet. You know, one of the questions or comments I often get is, so on the Mediterranean diet that we often promote through the Heart of New Ulm, it really is just red meat, which does include pork, once a month is the ultimate goal. Now, because we are beef and pork producers here in our community, that doesn't always work for us. And we do want to support our local industries. So I encourage you to start to limit the amount of red meat, pork and beef that you have, but not eliminate. By making good choices such as these tenderloins, you can still really enjoy your pork and follow your heart-healthy diet. All right? So when we get that all cut up, these are now into medallions. We'll do one more here. Take that last piece of fat off. We're just going to flavor these up just a little bit before we put them in our pan. So what we want to do is we want to add a little bit of our chipotle seasoning. We do want to add just a touch of salt to this, just to give it a little bit of flavor and bring out the moisture in that. And then we're going to add a little bit of red cayenne pepper or chili powder if you chose. This is just a rub that we're going to be putting the medallions in. Okay? So once we have that set to go, let's go ahead and bread those on both sides. Get them a little flavored. Easy enough recipe. Now remember, we are using the cutting board, so we are going to keep this one separate. Raw pork is something that we do keep a close eye on. You know, recently you may have attended as well, but we have heard from our chefs, that our guest chefs coming in, that trichinosis is no longer a concern for us. So we do only need to cook our pork up to about 145, 150, and then we're going to let it set, and it's going to reach a higher temperature. If we're cooking it hotter than that, it tends to get tough, and it's not going to be as flavorful. So without the worry of the trichinosis, now we're able to bring that down to a lower cooking temperature, and we get a lot more supple and better tasting pork. All right, so let's just finish that up. We did make a little bit of extra rub. Now once this part is done, we're really just going to add this into our pan on the stove. We're going to add some apple cider to that. Again, adding to the sweetness. It's going to counterbalance the spice of our rub. And we're going to let that braise for a while. So let's go ahead and turn back to the stove and get this started. All right. I'm going to put this on a medium heat. Add a little bit of our olive oil or canola oil. Just enough to coat the bottom of that pan. Now these are nice stainless steel pans. If you have a non-stick pan and you want to use a cooking spray to eliminate even more calories, do feel free to do that. Get that all nice and coated. All right, we're going to start adding our pork in. Now some of these are heavily coated, some of them are a little bit less. You know, that's based on your own preference and flavor. Remember, our pork is a great source of our protein. We want to incorporate that into all of our meals. And when making these good cut choices, fits perfectly into our diet. All right, we're going to let that start. We have about half a cup of apple cider. I'm going to add that in there. Let it braise in there. I'm going to add half a cup of water. And with that, we're going to add just a little bit of vinegar. And with all these different flavors coming together, we're going to have a really nice tasting dish. Okay, we're going to let that set. Now, when we get closer to finishing this recipe out, we're going to add a tablespoon of maple syrup. That's going to add a nice sweetness to this and really going to bring out all the different flavors that we have.
Welcome to today's Fit in 5. We're going to talk about exercising in the cold today. The weather is starting to get a little bit colder now that fall is here, but there's really no need to take your workout indoors as long as you dress properly. When it comes to working out in the cold, the main concern we have is hypothermia. Your body fat's going to protect you from that a little bit, but you can also help protect yourself from hypothermia outdoors by dressing appropriately. We want to think of dressing in layers. The base layer, or the layer that we have closest to our skin, we want to have something like this. It's a polypropylene blend of a shirt. What this is going to do is it's going to allow the air to stay trapped next to our skin, which keeps us warm. At the same time, dissipating the sweat away, or wicking the sweat away from the body. If we were to wear a cotton t-shirt, per se, next to our skin, that's actually going to trap the moisture against our skin and make you chilly. So we always want to make sure that our base layer is at least a type of wicking material. Most materials like this are marked as wicking. So some brand names will call it Dry Fit, some call it Climacool. This shirt, I actually got at one of the local retail stores, so they're available just about anywhere. When we look at the next layer that we want to wear, we're going to look at a fleece. Some type of fleece is great to wear over that base layer. Again, it doesn't trap the air, or doesn't trap the moisture next to the skin. It allows the air to stay trapped, but you to stay dry. And then finally, over the fleece, if it's really chilly, we can wear a jacket, which is weatherproof or moisture wicking. Again, the jacket that I have on today is very similar to what you would look at wearing. Also remember that 50% of your heat is lost through the head when it's really cold. So it's really important to also wear a nice hat on your head when you're outside. You should do this whether you're physically active outdoors or working out outdoors. If you're outdoors and your head is bare, you want to think about covering it, because you will lose 50% of your heat through your head. We also look at wearing things on our hands and feet, of course. We want nice, warm footwear, but we also want to keep the hands warm with some gloves. These are some running gloves that I acquired a while back. They're great for running with, but you can use just about any glove. We want to keep the hands and feet warm because the blood is actually shunted away from our extremities when we're physically active outdoors, and they can get cold really quickly. The blood will go toward your core to help keep you warm. One safety precaution that we want to look at when we're outdoors as well is not falling. So, you know, the snow is going to fly. It is Minnesota. So when we're outside and the snow is snowy or maybe a little icy, we want to make sure that our footing is secure. I like to use these yak tracks. These fit, as you can see, right on your shoe, and they actually will help provide you with some traction. They're great for running or walking in outdoors, like I said, when it's snowy or icy, and to help secure your footing. These can actually be found at some local retail stores also, and they're fairly inexpensive. So you can see that if you dress properly, dress warmly, and have some good traction, you can keep your outdoor exercise outdoors even when it's cold. Remember that December 11th, we do have the Jingle Bell Jam 4-mile walk or run coming your way. So now that you have the tools and the wear to train in, give it a try. For today's Fit in 5, I'm Holly, and have a healthy day.
So while that's cooking, we're going to go ahead, we're going to flip our cutting board. We're going to change out our knife, and we're going to start on our second recipe. This one's going to be the sweet potato red pepper angel hair pasta. Right now we have lots of our potatoes out and available, so we're just going to go ahead and peel down this potato. This is a sweet potato, If you can't find the sweet potatoes, you're welcome to substitute out the yam. It's going to have about the same nutrient profile and same flavor to that as well. This is a nice color in here, that nice orange flavor. If you're making things like French fries or other potato-based products, these are going to be a great substitute. They're a little bit higher in nutrients, a little bit higher in flavor. So we don't need to add, it's not the potato that gives us the trouble, it's what we're putting on top. So if you have the flavor in the potato, then we just don't need all that extra butter and sour cream that gets us in trouble. Along with this then, we're going to dice up a red pepper, and these are going to braise on the stove as well. All right, finish that out. As I've mentioned in the past, the Heart of New Ulm has a lot of different programming going on right now. Make sure you're engaging in any of the opportunities that we have available. We have Dan Gable coming to speak. He's an Olympic medalist and also University of Iowa's most winning coach in wrestling. We'll be speaking at our community summit on November 15th. That will be held here at the New Ulm Event Center, formerly the Hope and Healing Building, and that's from 6:30 to 8 o'clock. We're also running our Swap It to Drop It challenge right now. So if you're looking at some support for weight loss or improved your nutrition, that would be a great program to be part of. And we'll be starting our holiday trimmings at the end of November as well. So really no reason to not be getting involved and be part of the Heart of New Ulm. All right, so we're going to bring down this pepper. This is a little bit of a small red pepper, and it really adds good flavor to this recipe, so I am going to use 2 of these. Let's take that inside out. And if we take a look back, you can see that pork is starting to boil, and that's going to be a nice flavor on that. We'll let that continue. We really only need about 5 to 6 minutes on each side for your pork. Want to make sure it is cooked through. Looking for an internal temperature of about 145 to 150. Then we're going to let it set before serving. Again, this recipe does come with the angel hair pasta. I did prepare that ahead of time. Easy enough to use, and we want to make sure you're always using your whole wheat. Looking for those pastas that are highest in fiber. Sometimes people will mention that it tastes different or it doesn't taste as good as a regular pasta, and I always like to say it's not that it doesn't taste as good, it just does taste different, and it's a taste that we have to get used to incorporating into our diet. So if you've been kind of hesitant with the whole wheat pasta, stick with it, and you'll wonder how you ever tolerated that white pasta. All right, we'll finish that up. And again, I've julienned these. We're going to leave them in bigger chunks. We definitely want, this is the dominant flavor of the recipe, so we want that to come through. All right. Again, we're going to turn around, bring these to the stove, and let them start to braise. We're going to turn down the heat just a little bit. We have it at a rolling boil right now for our pork, and we want to bring that down just a bit. Adding our olive oil for our vegetables. And we'll get that right into our pan. You do want to make sure that gets fully coated, or you are going to have some sticking on there. Makes it a little bit more difficult to work with. Okay. Now the potatoes are going to take a little bit of time. We want to make sure they're cooked thoroughly. They're nice and soft and easy to consume. Let's get those started. To help those out, we're going to add a little bit of water to that and let those braise as well. Okay, so we're going to add a little bit of water in here as well to help the braising process of these vegetables. Now they're very tough right now, so we do want to keep a close eye on these, make sure they soften up before we take them off of the heat. Okay, we're going to flip our pork. These are looking great. Now, even though our pork has been cooking for some time, once we touch these with the fork, they're not fully cooked all the way through, so we are going to avoid cross-contamination, and we'll have a different fork for our vegetables. So be aware, even when you're making 2 different recipes, we need to be aware of our cross-contamination. and making sure we're practicing good food safety in our kitchen. All right, so that one will set here. With our vegetables starting to soften a bit, we're going to add in our garlic. Now this is a recipe that I like to add additional garlic to. The sweet potatoes don't have a very distinct flavor once they've been softened, or the red peppers. We are going to rely on that garlic a little bit more. So go ahead and add that in there. If you'd like to add other things like scallops or shallots, you're welcome to do that as well. There we go. Okay, as we're looking at this then, we're going to let that simmer just a bit, checking our pork frequently and keeping that turning. So with the apple cider, we're really absorbing a lot of the great flavor. So I think this is about ready to add our maple syrup. Now if you choose a sugar-free maple syrup, you can actually add a fair bit of this and it's going to add a lot of flavor. Anytime you're having pork chops or any other cuts of pork, maple syrup really is a great complement to that. So we're going to get that on there. It's going to create a nice glaze on that. Wonderful flavor. We're going to let that finish boiling out. Some of these bigger pieces are going to take just a bit more time. All right, there's that fork. Always aware of our cross-contamination and using different pieces of tools here to make sure we're staying safe. All right. As we come back to the center, we see that we're going to be using that angel hair pasta, which has already been prepared. And then the mainstay on this one is going to be our goat cheese. This is going to have a distinct flavor. It's available in all of our grocery stores and really is going to have a nice creamy coating on top of the pasta. So we're going to go ahead and we can start that process. Get our pasta going. Now goat cheese is going to melt, and so we can just put that right on the top. We're going to add that into our vegetable mix here shortly. Now this recipe does call for plum tomatoes as well. I'm not a fan of those, so we're going to leave those out. But as with every recipe, feel free to add in the ingredients that you'd like. Add on what you think would be beneficial or make your family a little bit more enticed by the foods that you're making. All right? So we have that broken up and we're ready to go. Okay, we're going to bring this back. Now we're starting to see that our potatoes are starting to soften just a bit. Our red peppers are definitely looking good. And our pork is about to be pulled off. So we're going to go ahead and add our pasta and our goat cheese into this dish. Mix that in. We're going to let that set for just a bit while we take our pork off of the heat. Bring it back up to center. Again, that goat cheese is used to coat the entire pan. Lots of different color and flavor into this dish. The key to this recipe, as I've mentioned many times, is making sure those sweet potatoes are cooked all the way through. If you're biting into something that's not thoroughly cooked, the other flavors just can't support that extra crispy potato. So make sure you're getting those all the way done. And you can see how nicely that goat cheese just melts right on top. We're going to mix that in there. All right. Nice juice on the bottom. And when serving, we're going to draw the pasta out of the center of the bowl, and we're going to add the vegetables from the outside on top. All right. So as we pull our two dishes together, we can see that we have a pretty comprehensive meal. We've got all of our vegetable servings in here. We have our whole wheat pasta. These are going to be high in fiber and a good way to make sure that we're meeting our daily recommendation of 25 to 35 grams in our fiber. And then our pork, making sure we're supporting our local farmers, getting a great tenderloin, which is our leanest cut, that's going to have some pretty distinctive, excellent flavor. And that's it. There's our two great dishes to make a perfect meal for the night. And that's it for this episode of What's Cooking, New Ulm. I'm Rebecca Fliszar, and I'll see you next week.